Just a quick heads up, this video is a bit of a companion piece to my earlier one discussing distance and the community around it. This video is going to focus mainly on the mechanics that make this game work, but if you want to know a bit more about why distance is worth celebrating, then click the link in the top right and give that other video a watch. Refrex Studios' Distance is a game that blurs the lines between two very different genres, racing and platforming. It's kind of like if Mario Kart and Mario Bros were tossed into a blender and sprinkled with some Tron aesthetic. That's pretty much as simple an explanation as I can really give on this game, but the merger of the two genres has given birth to some pretty unexpected qualities that turn Distance into something far different from a standard track-based racing game. And honestly, that's before you even start looking at what the developers and the community have done with the tackle box of mechanics at play here. Distance is in a realm all its own, and now that version 1.0 is released, I figured it would be a good time to talk about this mechanical menagerie that makes this game more than mundane. So, without further ado, let's take a look at how Distance is the perfect combination of the platformer and racing genres. To understand how Distance makes these two genres work and what that does for the game as a whole, we really gotta talk about what the main mechanics at play actually are. As you'd figure in a racing game, you can steer around, accelerate, slap the brakes, and drive backwards. That's all simple, normal goodness. But in Distance, tracks aren't circuits. They're point A to point B routes where the way forward might be over your head or along a wall or beyond a bunch of lasers. It's really not going to be as simple as sticking to a single section of road and just turning at the right time. So it's pretty convenient then that your car can jump. One of the key mechanics of any platformer from the last, 5,000 years, you're going to be doing this a lot to get over obstacles and move to different parts of the track. Jumping's really going to be your main way to avoid getting your shit kicked in by everything going on, so get used to the idea that your car's got mad ups. And you should also get used to the idea that those mad ups aren't going to save you from everything. Yeah, they'll get you to that next flat piece of road, but what if where you need to go is at a weird angle, or even upside down above you? You're gonna have to make use of your car's thrusters, which are 4 jets placed on the corners of your car that let you rotate midair so you can flip spin yourself into a good position to land on whatever platform instead of just nosediving into oblivion. Now let's say the next section of track or wall or whatever isn't readily available. It's a ways off, just past a bunch of space without any kind of road. You could definitely ride on whatever platforms are available, sure, but you can also tap your jump button again and turn your doors into wings and fly. You're slower while you're flying like this, but you have pretty fine control over how you move about, so flying sections are typically focused more on avoiding obstacles and being really cool set pieces. Flight is one of the main tools in a speedrunner's back pocket in Distance for exploring levels and finding skips to save time on future runs. While jumping and flying are going to keep you alive and help you actually get to the end of a track, you're also trying to get there as quick as possible, and this next thing's going to come in handy even if you're not sticking to the track. I'm talking about boosting. Holding down the A button puts your engine into overdrive, shooting jets of flame out the back of your car and making you go much faster. A pretty standard ability in racing games. Here in Distance, it has a bit more play since you can use this to propel yourself upwards or to even just get more length out of your jumps. But boosting ain't free and neither is flight. While you're using either of these abilities, your car is going to start to overheat, and if you get too hot, you'll explode and be sent back to the last checkpoint you passed through. This cooldown mechanic isn't a stranger to racing games, but when paired with the platforming mechanics of Distance, it takes on a whole new life. Checkpoints and cooldown rings placed throughout tracks help keep this cooldown in check, but their availability is decided by whoever made the track, so you can't always rely on them. What you can rely on is your thrusters. Not only can you rotate to land on platforms like I mentioned earlier, but you can also rotate in the air to do tricks. So you just jump and you spin around in your land, and landing stunts like flips, spins, and wall rides actually keeps you from overheating, allowing you to keep boosting or flying and going fast. And I understand that that might seem like a lot of stuff, and when you're watching somebody blast through the more intense tracks on offer, it really can seem as intimidating as it is fucking sick. But trust me when I say that Refract has done a great job of easing you into these mechanics throughout Distance's adventure mode by giving you a taste of how to use them and then dropping you into the deep end with wild combinations of maneuvers. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about how Distance actually eases players into its take on platform racing. I will say that Distance takes the slow burn approach to teaching its players new mechanics. It first teaches you how to go forward, then gradually introduces jumping, boosting, and cooldown mechanics. It then spends a few levels making sure you know how these mechanics work before adding in flight, thrusters, tricks, and then once you've got the hang of all of that, it starts pushing you into crazier and crazier situations to really put your skills to the test. On your first run through a level, you are gonna have no idea what's coming up. Understandable, you've never played the damn thing before. But because of all the tools at your disposal, this ends up making things feel delightfully improvisational as you run up and through these escalating escapades. And because you don't always explode the first time you make a mistake, you can try to recover instead of just resetting and get back on the track, and it feels like a brush with death. It's exhilarating. Tracks are short, but each one gives you something new to try, and because respawning is so quick, there isn't a huge detriment to crashing. The adventure mode really kind of serves as a long-form tutorial wrapped up in gusto. It spends its time making sure you know what you're doing, even if you're not super graceful about it. Like any racing game, Distance is about getting faster times the more you play. But, unlike other racing games, you have more mechanics to bend to your will and use to discover better routes through tracks. You're not just limited to the world between the sides of the road, and by finding the best places to perform tricks, leave the road, or just skip whole sections of a level, you can shave down time in the ranges of seconds to minutes. And these are all things that you can't do in a standard racing game. So once you've wrapped up the adventure mode in Distance, it's time to dive into the real meat and potatoes. The thing that's really gonna show you how far you can push the car's abilities and just what crazy shit you can do. That's right, I'm talking about community-created tracks. Something to note about the workshop levels available is that the tools players use to make their tracks are actually the same tools the developers at Refract use to make official stages. With the exception given to a few things that they've kept in their back pockets for secrets, everything that they can do is something that we can do. This makes it all the more impressive when you see that players have been making things that the devs haven't even thought of before. And in some cases, the tricks used to create some of the weirder effects in the editor have actually been added as official functions to the tool. I will admit that the player-made tracks in Distance are of varying quality, I mean, as is the case for any user-created content. But despite that, every level puts you to the test in some way. In some stages, whether it's intentional or not, you're tested on navigation as you use flight and wall driving to find the way forward. In others, it's about learning when and where you can do quick stunts to get a little bit of cooldown and keep going. And that's all on par with the course of the base game. But it's where things deviate and become more devilish that Distance really starts to shine not only as a platformer, but as a platform for player expression. You've got stuff like Condemned, a high-intensity and incredibly unforgiving track that isn't very long, but is gonna run you through a ringer of jumps and twists with no room for error. There's even a series of tracks called No Wings Boost Only, and I'm completely garbage at these tracks as there's plenty of evidence of, but I will admit what they aim to do is pretty rad. The challenge in each of these is different, but a good example is one that has you using your boost to fly through cooldown rings without anything to land on between you and the end of the stage. It is incredibly difficult, and I have no idea how anyone's actually been able to do this, but this is pretty cool. Everything the official tracks teach you to do, the community tracks test you on. I'm not trying to say they're all incredibly difficult, because in truth, they're not. Most of the tracks available aren't really that hard to complete, and when you're first dipping your toes in, sorting tracks by difficulty is a pretty reasonable way to go about it. In some cases, user-created tracks put the mechanics of both the racing and platforming genres to their ultimate tests, and they bend the game in ways that can't really be adequately described by the game's own difficulty metrics, especially the more experimental and weird tracks on offer. And all of this goes to show how Distance is boosted as a platformer for reimagining what's doable within the framework of a racing game and allowing players full control over what challenges they face. By pulling mechanics from the platforming genre to make your car more acrobatic, Distance managed to become more than just a smash-up of two genres. It makes these systems its own and melds them perfectly to become something one of a kind. Only Distance has this particular plethora of challenges that not only test its players, but push them to create something better. By adding jumping, flight, and mid-air tricks, they've allowed their game to be more than just driving along relatively flat paths with tight turns and different skyboxes and oh no, don't hit that wall. There's a whole new field to Distance's skill curve beyond just going fast, and it asks you to work from a basic understanding all the way up to being proficient in all the tools at your disposal. By making a level editor available for everyone, Refract Studios has given people the ability to bring to life any number of scenarios requiring any number of skills to get through, whether it's an atmospheric level or one that makes you want to throw your controller. Whether you stick to the tracks as much as possible or avoid the roads entirely, it's gonna feel fresh every single time you play. Distance proves something that I say all the time and I'm gonna say again. Cleverly pulling ideas from genres outside your game's primary one is a fantastic way to create something memorable, especially when you stretch the idea as far as it can go, either by yourselves or with some help from a passionate community. So seriously, don't be afraid to do it. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to do the YouTube stuff like subscribe, share this video with your friends, all that stuff. But also, if you are curious about the more community-focused side of Distance and why that whole group of people kicks ass, then be sure to check out my other video that I released yesterday. Boop 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 doop doo. Go check that out. Also, be sure to join the official Distance Discord. That's discord.gg/distance. There's a whole bunch of people playing right now and they are losing their mind over this game. It's so great to see. If you'd like to help support the channel beyond the likes and subscribes, just consider donating to my Ko-fi page. Each donation is $3 and it goes directly towards the channel. It helps pay for games to research, it helps pay for design work, and it helps pay for hosting for the website. Which, hey, don't forget to check out the Indie Bytes website. That's indie-bytes.com. There's a whole bunch of articles you won't find here, and everything's sorted in a way to help you find games you may otherwise have not heard of or just skipped by. I also need to give two quick shoutouts. Thank you so much to James D and to Miles with a Y for helping me really make this script in this video super kick-ass. Thanks guys. And thanks to everybody for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!